All right, next up in the men's flyweight division now, we got Mitch Raposo coming in at plus 165, going up against Alan Nascimento, who comes in at minus 190. Now, starting off on the Raposo side of things, he was finally able to get his hand raised in the UFC last time out as he picked up a win over Azat Maxim. That was a fight where going into it, I was, very much burned by Raposo in his previous two fights. He had lost two split decisions to Andre Lima and Sumudarji, both with underwhelming performances, especially that Sumudarji fight where he only landed 9 significant strikes over the total of 15 minutes, and he seemed just too dead set on trying to get that fight to the ground without landing any damage of his own, and which is why Sumudarji ended up getting the win, because even while he was defending, he was one getting off on damage, and we know damage is the number one criteria. And that came into play in Raposo's last matchup against Azat Maxim, where he was a big underdog. He was fending off takedowns left and right from Maxim, and while defending, he was the one landing damage, and that's why he did enough in the second and third rounds to earn that win. That first round was close. I'd probably give it to Maxim just by a smidgen, but rounds 2 and 3, Raposo utilized good footwork, good movement, good calf kicks. He really got Maxim biting on a lot of those feints as well, and thinking that a calf kick was coming, and that allowed the rest of Raposo's striking game to start to flow. In the third round, Maxim was a little bit more successful in terms of muzzling Raposo against the cage, but he just kept going for takedowns while Raposo was defending and landing damage of his own. Mixing the point deduction for Maxim in the last round, it was obvious that Raposo was going to get his hand raised once the scorecards were read. I'm very happy for Raposo. This was a guy that was the first overall pick on the Ultimate Fighter 29 several years back, but he really underperformed there. Obviously came up short in his first matchup against Ludovic Sholinian. Then he fell short on a short notice spot against Jake Hadley on the Contender Series, but luckily he was able to put together a solid streak on the regional scene with finishes to eventually get that short notice debut against Andre Lima. Now with that win against Maxim, I think his confidence is at a high level right now. He's a very good wrestler. That's kind of what his base is, but his striking is starting to come along a lot better. He's utilizing his grappling defensively now, and that allows his striking game to flow a little bit better. He's very good in terms of keeping opponents away from getting to dominant positions, and then from there, getting back to his feet, causing reversals, whatever it is, and then getting back to a solid striking game. And his cardio allows him to flow very well for the course of 15 minutes. Now he's going up against Alan Nascimento, who was able to pull out victory from the jaws of defeat last time out at the hands of Cody Durden. Cody Durden was lighting Alan Nascimento up for about 8 minutes before Nascimento finally landed a big enough shot to hurt Durden, and then from there he jumped on that anaconda choke and was able to get the tap from Durden. Credit to Durden. He tried working out of that anaconda choke, but he was stuck in this very weird position up against the cage, which restricted his movement and an ability to scramble, and that ultimately led to him tapping out. That saved Nascimento's winning streak. That stretched it to 4 straight wins. He is a guy that's heavily reliant on his BJJ game. His striking, still a big-time work in progress, still trying to get more confident there, but he's done a good job in terms of finding ways to get to the clinch, get to the back of his opponents, and then eventually find submissions. On the feet is where he often finds himself struggling, right? That's where Durden was able to get off on better shots. Even Carlos Hernandez had some decent success on the feet before Nascimento was able to get that submission spot. He's 34 years old. It's weird that the UFC is not really giving him ranked guys, especially on a 4-fight winning streak in the flyweight division, which isn't all that deep to begin with. And he has a tough test here as he goes up against Mitch Raposo. Now, going into this, I thought I would be leaning on the Nascimento side, but after witnessing what Nascimento went through against Cody Durden, I feel like Raposo can replicate that type of performance and be more successful with it. Durden has been guilty of mixing it up in the pocket a little bit too long, and that's what often causes him issues in terms of getting hurt and getting put away, and I think that's what happened in the Nascimento fight. Whereas Raposo, if he comes in with the same type of game plan he had against Maxim, this could be a very winnable fight for him. Stick and move, land those calf kicks, counter Nascimento when he tries to crash the pocket, and then when they're in those clinch exchanges, don't give up your back, continue to fight the hands, pivot out of those bad spots. And I know him and his coach are drilling those relentlessly to make sure that he stays at distance from Nascimento. And as he continues to get more and more successful with it, I expect Nascimento to start to slow down, and Raposo will get off on his combinations much more effectively. So I like Raposo here. It's been 4.5 years since he's been submitted, which was against Jake Hadley. It was a short notice fight. It was a fight where Hadley missed weight as well. The cards were really stacked against Raposo that night. But now, confidence under his feet, full training camp. This is a very winnable fight for Raposo. Thus, I'm going to go with the American to get his hand raised by decision. I wouldn't even mind maybe a little bit of a shot on round 3 as Nascimento starts to slow, but I think Raposo is just going to play it safe enough that he just outpoints Nascimento and wins this fight on the scorecards.